Hello, everyone. It's me. I'm back from earlier in the week. If you caught me, I think it was Tuesday. My name is Stephen Watley. I'm a candidate master from Gibraltar, and I'm here for you commentating on at least part of today's Blitz event. As we can see, if you've been watching the scoreline, of course, Hans has already won the event, but excellent that they're still playing on and having some very interesting games and some interesting chess. Probably Hans can take some risks that maybe he wasn't willing to do earlier. Then again, he doesn't mind his risky stuff anyway, it seems. So here we are. Both players, not very much time left, just almost, well, both under 15 seconds. So I'm going to predict, oh, yeah, Queen D8. I think I might prefer Queen D7, but some very quick play. I want to play Queen D7 still, but he can't. He can't because of Queen takes D5. Attacking the rook, takes on D6, takes on C8, back again. Very quick stuff. So I think he's just controlling a little bit of the D5 square. He can start moving his knight around a little bit now. Queen C3 maybe. I don't know if that works. Oh, well, yeah, if it was black's move, it might. I don't think white wants to swap off rooks, because if so, then black probably has a lot more activity. Happy to swap queens, but not necessarily swapping rooks. Pinning down on the f2 pawn here. Difficult for white to know what to do here. And looks like, I think white has resigned. Hasn't updated on mine, but looking at the video, it looks like the game is over. And of course, black is completely winning now. That was very impressive finish there from not a very good position. So looks like we'll have to be back soon for the next round, but excellent little end game there. I think it might be worth going through that. Whilst I do, I'm just going to get the chat up so I don't miss any of your comments or thoughts. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Um, oh, I see. Mute site. Got you. Thank you. No, of course. That's fine. Done. And we're back on now? Okay, great. um, just looking at the comments, guys. Chips ahoy, I am back. And yes, I was muted. We were just getting all set up. Sorry about that. In terms of the question, are you surprised by how much Hans is dominating? I think it's just very impressive to dominate this kind of event, whoever you are. So I think unless you're Carlsen, and even then it's quite impressive to dominate this much. Then yes, I'm not sure if surprised is the right word, but certainly it's very exciting. Craig, how did you become a candidate master? So I don't know what kind of long or short answer you're looking for there. But the process to become a candidate master is you well, there's a couple of routes. My route was simply getting over 2,200 rating on FIDE. I know that some events, particularly I think a lot of African championships and also some places where maybe chess is developing still as a thriving sport. They give these as major event. Like when you win a major event, then you might get a title. Like even IM, I think up to IM, but IM, FM, and CM. That's definitely a route. I've seen a lot of players at World and Europeans and stuff having mainly Worlds, having those events through winning some kind of major tournament. Um, because of course, if you can, it gives some level of strength to the tournament, because obviously a lot of people that are candidates for that kind of title are entering, and also you can get a lot of very interesting chess and a lot of competitive yeah, a lot. I think like you'll get a lot of people who are not that title, but you'll also get a lot of people who are that title, who are invited to that event. So to win, of course, the idea is that if you can win that, then you are surely capable of that level. So I think that's the idea behind that. But mine wasn't that at all. Mine was simply the rating criteria to get that, and I got that about 5 years ago. Um, Actually, in my more or less my only chess since my head injury, I just pushed myself back over the 2200 mark, and applied for that. But unfortunately, I haven't played too much since. But I am looking at, you might have heard, if you were on the stream on Tuesday, you might have heard that I am getting back into playing soon. Currently, Hans jumping from number 100 to number 38 Blitz. Yeah, I mean, I think particularly with Blitz, it's quite volatile, the top 100 list, because I mean, I don't think everyone is playing Blitz all the time, and certainly not as often as they're playing classical. So if you might have someone who is not so high rated classically, and then sorry, not so high rated Blitz when they're really high rated classically. And then they come in and they start playing some Blitz and they show their true rating, and suddenly they jump back up um, into high ratings. Yeah, it used to be more volatile. Now it's K10, so it's a lot less. But I mean, they've done a lot over the past decade with changing. I mean, I think Blitz and Rapid possibly didn't even exist um, before like a decade ago. I'm just going back because I think we have a new game happening. Yep, looks like, well, they've started very quickly here. Just looking at the comments. Yep, some some standard sort of Gioca Pianissimo stuff. This is an opening I quite like, except I normally do this maneuver before I have castled. But it more or less reaches the same kind of position, just except you don't, normally I would probably have my knight here already and threatening to come into here, but nothing too majorly different. Except, I mean, this is interesting in general. Also, I don't like to have it so closed. I just sort of, I'll keep my pawns here rather than pushing. So we've got a very closed position now, which will mean a lot of maneuvering and very strategic play, I think. Someone just saying you can actually get the the GM title from the African Chess Championship. Yeah, I think. I mean, that makes sense. I didn't know it was GM though, so thank you for telling us that. Yeah, the only ones that I've come across really, I think the only ones I've come across normally are just IM, FM, and CM, mainly FM and CM. which I assume I don't know. Probably you can get from different placings in the African Championship, but also I imagine some of the national ones or the sort of areas of Africa rather than those championships rather than the whole of Africa. Um, I believe that, I mean, I'll double check to be certain, but I believe these are FIDE rated. Um, yeah, they are. I've just had it confirmed. Definitely. To answer your question, they're definitely rated. So um, that's confirmed for you there. Yeah, Bacrot is an excellent player. Definitely no abuse for him, please. Not sure where that's come from though. I've just seen it on the comments. Um, Absolutely top player and certainly has been higher than he is now even. Um, yeah, no, none of us here are as good as Bacrot, so no judgment for him. Um, or at least none of us are as good as him, I'm sure. Who knows in the future? Work hard. Um, okay, so as I said, a lot of maneuvering stuff here. White's pieces don't really have very anywhere to go, but likewise, neither do Black's. Black does have this sort of good bishop on on the well, did have it's good bishop on the long diagonal, but as I was about to say, it's very easily removed whenever White wants. So sort of just an oversized pawn, really. So White swapped that off now, and yeah, a lot of aggressive play now from Black, going down the king side. White just HANS just stopping that in its tracks completely. Um, I think depends. He'll probably play g3 at some point to hold on to the h pawn because no other realistic way to hold on to it if something like knight h5 happens. Yeah, so I'd say, well, yeah, so knight h5, as I said, probably g3 is forced, I think. Yeah, and then I don't know, maybe queen f6. You can close it off, but something that we discussed on Tuesday actually is that often you want to keep the tension in the position, and realistically, he's never going to play f3, or it's going to be a long time before he can play f3 himself. So it's nothing forcing you to do that right away. You might as well leave the tension there and ensure that the knight is still tied to this g pawn. So I would say f3 is definitely a possibility, but there's no rush for it. So yeah, queen f6 is what's been played. I was just about to say that this rook doesn't seem to be doing. I need to get used to this blitz stuff being so quick. This rook doesn't seem to be doing much, so it looks like he's repurposed the rook here on the c file. Could have some swap offs here. Either way probably works. Okay, f3. I'm a little surprised at that, but nice little tactical idea, especially in blitz. This is definitely good from Bacrot. He's possibly, I mean, the computer hasn't updated, but I don't know if this is probably his idea potentially. It doesn't actually need to go anywhere yet though, so maybe he could potentially rook left at some point, or yeah, okay, so that was the plan. I was right. So can he take? Probably can get away with takes. I don't know, it's tricky. He's threatening g3, so not worth it for the pawn, I think. So he's probably just going to drop back and then push the pawn and force that, getting rid of that. But I don't know if queen h6 is on here. Yeah, oh, looks like it. I don't know if that was just a mistake from Bacrot. Yeah, swap off here. Yeah, this is okay for back row. It's pretty level, I think. Um, um, the comment that back row is kind of a faded player and he's happy to get paid for losing. I'm sure there is absolutely not an ounce of this man that wants to lose. So I'm sure he is giving his best. But the opportunity to get played and do the sport that you love at the highest level, doesn't matter whether you're on form or not, you want to do that. So yeah, D6 was a very good spot earlier. Now we're in a pretty level ending, I guess. Not easy for either side, but I'm going to guess probably rook c5 here. My computer is just not on at all, so I've got no idea. This is all completely off the top of my head. But it looks like I'm predicting somewhat well. So I think threatening e4 here, which is stopped by b5. White, I definitely take white, obviously. Pawn up, difficult position for both players. Yeah, I think the key will definitely be bringing the king in, but once the king is in the in the mix, then black definitely has an advantage in that sense. So this is a really nice move, rook h. I think the point is going to be soon to play rook a8 and come down here. I'm not entirely sure why g5 was played. Maybe that's my poor understanding. We'll have a look at that when we look back at the end of the game again. Looks like they finished. I don't know if that's because Bacrot has lost on time, because that's what my computer shows, but yeah, judging by the screen, that is in fact 6 out of 6 for him. It's clearly besting him at Blitz. Let's just review where the game changed, because it was pretty level for a lot of the way through. I mean, even here we're at mostly level. Well, not quite here, but yeah, okay, like even at this point, it's pretty level. Looks like both king g7 and rook c6 are mistakes. Just shows that even at this level, you can have mistakes in the endgame, especially at this time control. I think rook takes d5 has got to be the right move here from Bacrot. I think that's definitely a mistake. I mean, playing king g7, he's obviously trying to keep this g pawn, and then I mean, it says rook c6 is a mistake as well. I think rook c5 probably is even better, because it's pretty hard to stop this this kind of thing. Because if you were to go rook b6, then okay, I'll just pile up on it and make sure that I take it. And once you get these three all together, that's pretty dangerous. Whereas this g pawn really isn't that important of all the pawns that you have. I'd have thought that just taking on d5 and allowing rook takes g6 is fine, because realistically this pawn, you've got every chance of stopping it with all your pieces on this side of the board. And this pawn will be very important to stop these two from progressing, and certainly from progressing quickly. Yes, you're a pawn down, but I feel like the d5 pawn was much more important than the g6 pawn. But in this kind of environment, it's pretty difficult to stay on top of that and not to play something like king g7. That's such a natural move, I think. So yeah, I think in this position, a lot of players will play king g7 just to solidify this. But I definitely think the best move here is rook takes d5, and I would say that's probably a key moment that Bacrot has messed up in, really, or made a mistake in, I should say. Definitely, I mean, it also seems that Hans has made some mistakes here too. rook c6, which I did not see in the flash that was these few moves around this time, and they made it all within a few seconds. That is an excellent move, I think. With I mean, the computer's still making up its mind, but I think that's an excellent idea, because this can. Excuse me. This can be problematic with bishop takes and f takes and rook takes and rook takes, and then rook c1 again. And again, I'm coming into c6, and you can't stop me because you're tied to this, which means you can't come here. And in this case, well, this pawn is definitely not more important than g6, because I can take and play rook c7, and I'm going to come in here and mate you somewhere probably. And just to point out that, like, in this position, let's just play a nothing move from black. If this is happening, you've never got this sort of mate. It takes too many moves. So, let's say this is the position. This is not back rank mate, right? So I'm just playing a nothing move that doesn't mean anything. But this is never mate in time, because I can always play king here, and it takes you again another move. You have to lose a tempo to threaten mate, by which time I'm probably mating you like this instead. And then I'll just walk you over to that side of the board. Nice and easy. And that's forced mate all the way from back here in this little mating pattern. So you're never quick enough to win that. So essentially you have a move to get your rook off the back rank, which is all that Hans needs in that position. But that wasn't played. Bishop takes g6 was played a little bit, and again feels like taking the pressure out unnecessarily. But obviously, also I think with a minute left, he could have taken a little more time, but he did take 15 seconds, and when you only have a minute, that's obviously a quarter of your time. That's quite a lot. So yes, they're on a break. No plex. When they are playing the new game, I will come back and talk about that immediately. I'm watching their screen at the same time to make sure. If we just review this game, yeah, I think I quite like the playing this immediately and then doing this immediately before you castle. I think it just has the added benefit that you get the knight over there much quicker. So and yeah, like for example, in this position in general, I don't like playing d4 too much because it can lead to those closed positions. Whereas if here, for example, I quite like g4 as a move to play g5, or just knight g3 immediately. And if the knight were to come here, you can play knight f5. But there's a really nice game from Kasparov actually, where he plays g4, g5 as soon as the h6 comes out, and then you can, let's say g4 here. And the computer doesn't like it, but I don't really care. I like it, which is more important for me to play it at least. Knight h5. Computer really doesn't like this. I don't know why it really doesn't like it. Maybe g5 is a bit premature, to be fair. Okay, so I'll just play like knight g3. And then I'm going to bring my knight into f5 and put my king, well, once this is defended, maybe queen e2, put my king over on h2, put my rook on g1. I don't know, I feel like this h6 pawn is just giving me something to attack, so I kind of want to attack it, but anyway. Back to the game. So d4 happened. By the way, they are taking 10-minute breaks. 5 minutes used up already in this break between the 6th and 7th round. And we have 6 more rounds, so 12, if my maths is correct, in total. In answer to your question, chat. I hope that is, oh yeah, and it looks like it's already been answered as well by someone else. So yeah, kept it nice and closed. Obviously, I'll be swapping colors in a minute. I suspect a very lively and aggressive game from both, especially judging by how this went. And I also suspect that Bacrot will be playing quickly to begin with, because it seems that, I mean, from here, from move 21 to 27, he lost a minute. And then on one move, he lost 30 seconds playing Queen F6. And I feel like Queen F6 could have been played a lot quicker. I think in Blitz, I would recommend playing that a lot quicker. Yes, Congo 1, you are seeing that right. He has won every single Blitz game so far, which is very impressive. 6-0 at the moment. Yeah, so yeah, I suspect my prediction is that we'll see him Bacrot play a little bit quicker, and I suspect Hans will just keep on doing what he's doing. I mean, if it ain't broke, as they say, don't fix it. I think this sort of this aggressive style that he's got going on, and the very quick play throughout really seems to be working for him, as long as he's not making mistakes, which in fairness he doesn't until right all the way until move 33. He's not making any mistakes at all. But I would say one way he could potentially improve is here in these critical positions to take a little longer. I mean, I predicted Queen takes H6, and I thought that was quite good, but actually I was only looking at one part of the board, and actually Knight D5 is an excellent move here that just really makes Black struggle rather a lot. This H pawn is not really very important unless he's pushing it. So if we do things that sort of stop him from pushing it, then it's not too important just yet. Like this. Computer says A4. I don't really like that. Let's play 97. If takes, that's definitely bad, because obviously I'm threatening the rook and threatening the bishop. So yeah, I think just this kind of aggressive play will be good for Hans if he can keep it up. But I think he could probably do a slightly, I mean, no judgment. It's very impressive. Just if he's looking to improve it at all, I guess the only thing that he could do is just be a little more clinical in those slightly better positions that he's getting. And Bacrot, I think, needs to play a little quicker at the beginning. And then, yeah, maybe go for some more open positions, or maybe some more aggressive stuff, because, yeah, I feel like he could have been a little more aggressive on this side of the board. So yeah, we shall see, I guess, what happens. We've got this game that we're waiting to happen. I would certainly be interested to see what that does to the rating. I mean, if you're roughly equally rated and you're on K10 and you win, that's got to be a +6 or something. Somewhere between +4 and +6. So, I mean, to win 6 games in a row, he must be up 30 points by now. So, yeah, someone says he's already like 2690 right now. It's probably from the rest of the event as well. I just meant from this specific one, he must be up about 30 points. But yes, Hans has already won the event, even if he were to lose every game from now. He has won his own event. That's the dream, surely. Is that just a question for the chat. That plus 5.5, is that per game that he won, or an overall result of plus 5.5? Yeah, per game that he won. Yeah, that makes sense. So that's plus 5.5 for Vitukov, who is higher rated. So I'd assume it's something like plus 4.7 or whatever. Yeah, okay. So I was almost spot on. Thank you, Barbie. He got plus 32 for these 6 games. Yeah, I said about he must be on about plus 30. So yeah, that figures. Um, yeah, I know what you mean. That definitely Hans is doing a good job of keeping the tension, even if the evaluation drops. But definitely that other position. I mean, if I was to just go back to that game, if I can, um, that knight d5 move was definitely better, not just because it's a better move, but because of the tension as well. Like this move here, knight d5, definitely keeps up the tension more. Like that, I think this takes it away because he doesn't want this to go wrong. I mean, I completely understand it. In a blitz game, you don't want to risk anything, but realistically, I feel like knight d5 is definitely a better move. But that's probably the only key critical position where something could have gone better um, for Hans. And you're absolutely right that he seems to be very good at playing the person, not just the board, and keeping up the tension. Um, uh, you're very welcome for the commentary, Hassie. I'm glad you like it. Um, who will Hans play next? I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is his last opponent. He's just playing him 6 more times. I'm sure the moderators of this will correct me if I'm wrong. I hope. And it looks like we're about to start again back. Let's swap that around because we are with Hans as black. Magnus next. No, that would be fun, wouldn't it? Okay, this D6 line is surprisingly passive from Hans. Not so active, but equally so is this D3 and C3 thing, I think. Um, it's very similar position, right, to what we just had, but the other way around, except White's bishop is on the inside, not outside of the pawn chain. Um, and Black's come back with quite a this bold move that actually puts us in the same pawn structure as the move before. Computer doesn't like b4. I like it. I think it's aggressive move to get Black back into the game. Sorry, to get White back into the game, as in back into the center, really. Yeah, and Black is just, Hans is just playing very solidly. I think he's sort of sitting on his advantage and saying, in the match overall, and just saying, okay, come get me. Which of course can, if you're playing, which Hans of course is playing very technically correctly, if you say come get me when you don't have too many weaknesses, sometimes it can cause your opponent to make mistakes. So I think probably b5 is the move here. And no idea why, but it seems that my computer is not giving me any analysis. So you've just got me, I'm afraid. Yeah, so obviously white is trying to sort of play this. There's a word for it and I can't remember, but it's essentially this hyper modern setup kind of thing where he's doesn't mind if he's any pawns down. Incidentally, he hasn't got any pawns down to achieve this, but probably wouldn't mind if he was, just to get this long diagonal bishop. You know, a lot of pressure potentially building up on the center. It's got this good E file. Unfortunately for Hans, I guess I would say I would take white in this position, but no doubt, as Hans always does, he'll come out fighting. You know, for example, he's highlighting the fact that he's potentially got some pressure on the king side. I don't know how exactly he's going to consolidate e5, but I guess bishop f1 is probably going to be the next move to defend g2 and also open up the e file. Yeah, it seems that's what he's played. And I guess he probably doesn't care. Well, I was just about to say he probably doesn't care if he loses this, as long as he gets his king out the way. So castling makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I like Komodo as well as an engine, and other engines are of course available. But I do like Komodo as an engine, except it's not giving me any of them. So none of them are loading. I thought changing the engine might load it, but nope, none of them are loading. So never mind. You'll have to tell me if there's any super good moves that the engine comes up with. Okay, so just a few moves that we missed there. As I said, black didn't really care about losing that pawn, but I think white probably shouldn't care about taking it either, especially as he's going to lose the d pawn. So I think d4 is probably a better move here. To swap in the middle and still keep this activity going. Instead, what's happened is we've got this. I don't know why it's still. Oh, there we go. And I mean, now, can we play bishop takes g7 potentially? Oh, okay. Oh, he's done it that way around. Fine. Nice little tactic with this going on. So obviously, black has said, well, I don't want to just lose a pawn. I don't mind losing the exchange. Okay, that's what he's saying. I don't mind losing the exchange. But I don't want to just, you know, he thinks that that's enough compensation, having the two bishops. And of course, this very clever move, threatening mate here. Okay, I thought Hans might leave his rook there actually, but obviously he wants to keep the material somewhat level. He's only a pawn down after all. These bishops are very strong. I like to think that and actually something from something that I learnt from Graham. Oh, well, that's that. Oh dear, that's a blunder somewhere there. Oh dear, rookie one. Oh, Queen f1 is the blunder, surely. Dearie me, that came out of nowhere, didn't it? Yeah, the evaluation bar was not up to date. So the only move here, I think, is knight f3 to try and block this attack on f2. Otherwise, how does he defend it? And how does he untangle his pieces? mean, knight f3. Okay, my computer is not working. Computer says h6. I mean, maybe queen 8, h5 coming, but then you could probably get away with knight d4 and f3 or something like that. Maybe I'm talking waffle. Someone put, what is happening to poor Bacrot? I think it can happen in all play all tournaments as well as in like individual matches. I think if you start losing or start winning, there's very much momentum factor. And if you are winning consistently, you feel ready to take chances and you feel very on top of your game. Whereas if you're losing, it feels like you question yourself a lot. I think having been in both scenarios, I feel like you start questioning yourself a lot when you don't feel on top of your game and you have a momentum of some losses. Um, you start to risk things and you don't feel so comfortable. It looks like they have already got started. They obviously haven't taken their break and they've just got straight started again. And it looks like Bacrot is playing his Sicilian Taimanov again, as he did in the game that I evaluated before. Well, okay, he offered a French and then went for a Sicilian Taimanov. And Hans has played the variation, at least a similar variation to what I said I quite like doing as white then. Black has responded by, the idea is that potentially when you play d4, d5, you're going to play c3 and d4 to make an isolated queen's pawn, potentially, or actually just d4 immediately once you put something behind it. So it looks like that's exactly what Hans prepared to do. Black has now stopped this, or at least made it more difficult. Nice little maneuver from Hans. There's no point the knight going this way. It might as well go into this nice little neat space that he's made for himself by playing c3. So f5, gaining a nice bit of space in the center. d3, getting the king out of the way of any potential checks along this diagonal at any point. Takes, knight h5, potentially looking at bringing the queen over. Computer doesn't like it, I presume, because of f4. d4 is definitely an option here. Not sure why Hans hasn't gone for opening up the center, but maybe he has some idea I haven't seen with knight h4. Maybe his idea is to come over and play queen h5. But I think f4 is probably pretty good for black. Computer keeps changing its mind, so I'll ignore it. Cutting off this bishop. If g takes, then this knight is undefended, so you can, well, not there, not silly, but maybe play knight g8 and relocate to f3 with a tempo on queen attacking on h4. It seems that f4 has been played and white has responded with d4. Again, computer not liking this very much. However, in most of the games so far, computer hasn't liked Hans's position. And as one of our viewers and as chat pointed out, he seems to be keeping the tension in the position and lasting with that tension, whereas Bacrot is sort of seems to be crumbling when it gets too hot in the position. Just reading the chat and yeah, he's making good, as you said. He's doing a good job of putting him under like 10 seconds, and that's when Bacrot is making mistakes. And it's not easy to deal with that pressure, especially under that time pressure as well as the positional pressure. It seems like we have, I don't know why my thing isn't updating, but okay, d4, c takes, knight f5. Still quite liking black's position here. Knight f3. Oh, sorry. What have I done there? Knight f3, f takes g3. Again, getting rid of the tension. Not sure why. Not sure why he's done that, but okay. Swap off in the center. Knight g5, bishop f5. Okay. I mean, I feel like black could have held the tension a little longer. Maybe, again, he just wants to, he likes his position, so, and he likes his advantage, so he's trying to swap things off and get to a simplified version of his position where he is still just a little better. Is Hans living in London? I have no idea. I do not have his address. Sorry. But it seems right now he is in Paris. Yeah, I was kind of expecting actually rook e8 with this pin. You know, if takes on f6, takes on e2, I would quite like black's version of that swap off, and so maybe queen d3, but he's still pinned, so you know, then something like queen g6 would be problematic for white. So yeah, he's got to defend it, and then I presume d5 is coming in a minute after bishop takes. Definitely my evaluation bar isn't. There we go. The evaluation bar was not catching up. So white's just lost a piece here, I think. Knight e4 was definitely a mistake. I actually wouldn't be surprised if this is the first loss of the match for Hans. So d5 must be coming. Yeah. Yeah, it's an awful position for Hans. I think he's resigned. Computer hasn't updated, but I'm pretty sure he's resigned. That was actually a shame, really, for Hans. I don't really understand why he let that one go, or how he let that one go. Knight e4 seemed a little complacent. Yeah, he resigned. Confirmed. Knight e4 just is just a blunder, I think, of the rook e8. I was actually looking at it when he played, and I thought, well, hang on, why can't I play rook e8? Turns out he could. Okay, so unfortunately for Hans, he will not have a 12-0 win. But at least it's nice for Bacrot to put something on the board, to put a score on the board. Yeah, I think it's just this move. It's just this one, unfortunately, awful move from Hans, which is rare. But it looks like a couple of times Hans has made a mistake and Bacrot has not capitalized. But it's good, obviously, at that level. You should expect they have the confidence to believe in themselves when they find these clever tactics. And I'm, you know, at least pleased for Bacrot that he managed to find this. But yeah, shame for Hans, and shame for the match, really, because that came to a very abrupt end. I mean, here it's not great, but I think he should be playing knight takes f6. But rook e1 is not great. I thought, obviously, I mentioned queen d3, but then queen g6, as the computer seems to agree with me, you have the same problem, because, you know, if you play f3, then d5, and you've got the same issue that we had before. But yeah, rook e1 just doesn't solve the problem. So obviously, well, the idea is behind rook e1, for those who may not know, is simply that now you are threatening to take on f6. You know, so for example, if d5 came now, then, you know, as you see, the evaluation bar swings the other way. Knight takes f6, rook takes f6, rook takes f6, bishop takes, and now we have a rook for a rook for a knight, really, which is perfectly fine, if not actually quite good for white. But the problem is, as Bacrot rightly pointed out in the game, is that actually he can just take away the threat of the knight force a swap off, and then do it when this bishop actually doesn't have anywhere to go. That's sensible. And actually, I'd just like to point out how pivotal this king being on h8 is in this scenario. So something that we discussed actually in the game on whenever it was, on Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. I think it was Tuesday. Yeah, that moving the king out the way sometimes can be very important. And without further ado, it looks like they've already started again. They're absolutely blitzing, excuse the pun, their way through these matches. This time, Hans is black. Very sensible, theoretical Sicilian stuff here. So a6 threatening b5, a4 stops it. So instead, Hans pushes the bishop back with d5 instead. What's the blitz score? You should be able to see it by the players' names here, but it is 7-1 currently to Hans. So absolute domination. It was 7-0 a minute ago, but Bacrot pulled one back. This looks, I mean, I would ignore the evaluation bar in these kind of positions. It generally doesn't do too well with opening theory in, on the whole, but also in these types of Sicilians. It generally favors white, but the tension is there, and black can make a lot of problems and cause a lot of problems for white. So I wouldn't say to pay too much attention to the slight advantage that the evaluation bar is giving white. Okay, so some swap offs, but ultimately some more pressure put on white, except now some of these swap offs have relieved that pressure. Now I actually would slightly believe the evaluation bar that white is slightly better, mainly because I think black doesn't really have many things to target. White doesn't really have, these aren't this usual sort of targets for the weaknesses in white's camp aren't really there. So now if white does this right, he could potentially really have a very aggressive attack on his hands. So probably queen h5 here, or even knight h7 is a nice move. Of course, you can go back to knight f3 or knight h3. I would say knight h3 over f3 just to keep this diagonal free for the white queen. I think if I had to play immediately, I would have played queen h5. But on just second reflection, just after a few seconds of thinking, I quite like knight h7. Just shifting the rook from e8 before having to make, potentially winning the